Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me as he does, well, a lot of Thursdays lately, Mike Piwowarski from the Rundown and Arms Room Radio. How's it going, man?
It's going great, Paul. Having a great time down here in Florida. And how are things going for you up there in the Dakotas?
It's, we're slowly thawing out. As we speak right now, it is very windy and 30 degrees. So we're almost to the freezing point. We were up above it for a few days, but we're slowly inching our way towards spring.
Very nice, very nice. I was up in New York City this past weekend. Went home to see some relatives, and woke up Saturday morning, and it was 4 degrees. No snow. No ice. What's the point of it being 4 with no snow and no ice? That's just dumb. I don't know why it was 4.
Welcome to the Northern Hemisphere, my friend. Most of us deal with things like that, and unlike those, Floridian types. Speaking of Florida, this is just something I found a few minutes ago, and since Mike is on, I wanted to. And this is not directly gun related, but. I found this on Facebook. A married couple in Florida, Tito and Amanda Watts, were arrested a few days ago for selling golden tickets to heaven to hundreds of people. They sold the tickets on the street for $99.99 per ticket, told the buyers the tickets were made from solid gold, and each ticket reserved the buyer a spot in heaven. Simply present the ticket at the pearly gates and you're in. Tito Watts said in his police statement, "I don't care what the police say, the tickets are solid gold, and it was Jesus who gave them to me behind the KFC and told me to sell them so I could get money to go to outer space. I'd met an alien named Stevie who said if I could get the cash together, he'd take me and my wife on his flying saucer to his planet that's made entirely of drugs. You should arrest Jesus because he's the one that gave me the golden tickets and said to sell them. I'm willing to wear a wire and set Jesus up." Mike, is Tito a neighbor of yours, dude?
Tito is not, but Jesus probably is. Jesus is, and if they arrested everybody named Jesus in Florida, we'd have to build a lot more jails. That's for sure. This guy Stevie, though, I think I saw him when I was up in New York. He was selling Brooklyn Bridge while we were there, also.
Oh, sure. Now, was he just offering a lease on it, or was he giving the whole title and everything to it?
Well, you bought it by the brick, so everybody got a percentage. It was just a matter of you could charge access to your bricks. So depending on where they were, it was a placement thing. It's all about location.
Absolutely. And of course, you really want the ones that are right over the middle of the Hudson. Is the ones you want from that bridge. So because you can get higher. You don't want to get halfway across the bridge and then all of a sudden have to turn around.
No, definitely not. Yeah, but I'd like a bridge or a brick in the travel lane. I want to charge somebody to go over it. I don't want one that's up on a pillar somewhere. Nobody's going to be crossing over that. I'll make my money. Gold's expensive.
There you go. Well, I do want to mention to everybody as we get started here, all kidding aside, if we're talking about something you want to talk about, hit us a comment on either the Facebook or YouTube videos if you're watching on the Polite Society podcast feed, and we'll get those comments up, put them on the air, and we'll Mike and I will discuss your comment. If you're catching us anywhere else, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag #TheBullet. We'll get those comments up as well. I need to get one more check here to make sure. I thought we weren't getting any comments, but there we start to get some. So let's see. Pete over at Gun Websites, he's of course an Arizona dude. He's saying, I was thinking of wearing a windbreaker here today, but I didn't want to get overheated. Gun Websites, keep that kind of to yourself, as we're just a little colder than that in the rest of the country. But we're
I hear you.
How do we put this? We're temperature challenged, maybe.
Listen, when I made that trip up there to New York and found out how cold it was going to be. It took me a day to find anything with the long sleeves on it or pants. It just trying to find that kind of clothing to wear up there was a challenge. All I have is ski clothes, Paul. I'm not walking around Manhattan looking like I'm skiing.
And when I used to drive truck, and I would get down south, I would have to put warning signs on the outside of my truck if I wore shorts, because I would blind people when these northern legs got out of the truck. So, let's go ahead and get started, man. First thing I want to talk, and I need to mention again, not quite gun related, but we're only 10 days out from the start of the sports season. The last real sport, Daytona 500, is 10 days from today. Nothing really going on in the sports world until then.
Nope, nothing at all. Not a thing.
No, especially not this Sunday. But
no.
What I do want to talk about, Florida, I got two stories here discussing Florida and permitless carry. First one off of Tallahassee.com. There were 120 speaker cards on the desk when Representative Spencer Roach, Fort Miles, gabbled the Constitutional Rights, Rule of Law, and Government Operations Subcommittee to order for consideration of a bill to allow the permitless carry of concealed firearms in Florida. HB 543 by Rep. Charles Bannon repeals longstanding requirements for concealed weapons licenses, including fees, a criminal background check, and completion of a firearms training course. And basically, I've got a lot more in here, but there's my understanding is there's about a third of the people that testified that were for it, 2/3 against it, and the 1/2 of the 2/3 that were against it, or another third, were upset because it wasn't true constitutional carry. It didn't permit open carry. Mike, we talked about this a week ago, but I want to kind of go around on it again. This is perfect being the enemy of the good. Would it be wonderful if Florida you could open carry and concealed carry just because God said you could? Absolutely. Is it going to be reality this year? I don't think so.
No, if a true and listen, let's call it a true unrestricted carry. Just to avoid all the other terms everybody's throwing out. This bill is not a true unrestricted carry, and by that I mean you could open carry, you could concealed carry, and you could do it wherever you wanted to do it. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at rescinding the requirement to get a permit to carry your concealed firearm. So it'd be just to be accurate, it would be a permitless concealed carry, and yet we still have people on the right that are opposed to this. We've got, Paul, I don't know. I guess it's Florida, and we hear about Florida man and Florida woman all day long. But we've got our fair share of knuckleheads down here that are trying their best to ruin this. You and I talk about a word that some people are afraid of, and we're not afraid to talk about it, and that word's compromise. On the left, compromise means they want to take half our gun rights today and the other half tomorrow. And so we're afraid of that word. We've heard about compromise, never compromise. Well, in the opposite direction, we'll accept compromise, right? Paul, you and I are the same. I want to order an Abrams tank on Amazon, have it delivered in the morning, and I want to get an M60 out of a vending machine, okay?
Yep.
I want to be able to have that. However, until I have that, maybe I can get, I don't know, a Beretta M93 pistol out of a vending machine, something along those lines. Give me a little compromise. Let's take a little bit back. When I'm taking back my rights, I'm all right with compromise. Do I want them all back? Absolutely. And that's where I call myself an absolutist, because I absolutely want all my rights back. But I'm not willing to sacrifice half of my rights because you want them all back tomorrow. I'll take back what I can get today and continue to fight tomorrow for more. And why people can't get through their head, since we've had a ban on firearms here since 86, 87, thanks to Janet Reno, let's take back the right to carry a firearm without asking the government for permission to do so.
Yeah. Let me get C&T Designs and Arms, that comment in there. The only reason Florida does not have constitutional carry is the influence from New York Democrats that have moved here. There are a ton of those, dude.
There are a ton, but I'll tell you what, the Florida House of Representatives has 120 members, 84 are Republican, 35 Democrat. We have the supermajority there. And the Florida Senate, there's 40 members, 28 are Republican, 12 are Democrat. We have the supermajority there. The reason we haven't had it here in the last couple of years is because the one or two Senate presidents were Southern Republicans that were worried about their next job and didn't want to bring up the the gun right issue. Not that they were opposed to it, didn't want to bring it up, so it would haunt them in their next election because, like many other states, Paul, the state House of Representatives and the state Senate is only a stepping stone to your next jobs, and that's what they were worried about. That's why we don't have it here. Do we have more Democrats from around the country than I'd like? Sure we do. But if you look at the numbers in our state House and our state Senate, we are in the supermajority range with, by the way, a super governor in office.
Well, a very, very good governor. I think South Dakota has a super governor. But, anyway, let me get this comment up there. 500 Magnum says, I support that message, Mike.
Thank you, Magnum.
And C&T says, just because they have an R by their name doesn't mean they're Republicans. Not only that, it doesn't, if they have an R beside, and even if they are a Republican, it doesn't necessarily mean they support your right to keep and bear arms. And just because they have a D doesn't necessarily mean they're against it.
Right. Like I said, there's no checklist when you sign up to be a Republican that says these are the 100% of things I agree on. Some people are going to differ on them. That's why I've always preached the 80% rule. You find somebody out there, whether it's somebody you work for, somebody you work with, somebody that works for you, your relationships, their politicians. You get to that 80% rule, sign on with that because you're never going to find anything better than that. That's something the military teaches with the planning process. When you get to 80%, it's time to execute because if we spend the other time worried about that last 20%, we're never going to get there.
We're going to end up with, if you worry about that last 20%, you're going to end up with an operation like the Iran hostage rescue that ended up being destroyed in the desert.
The 80% rule is a direct translation from Patton's rule of a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. And this plan right now to get us permitless concealed carry is a good plan. Let's take it.
Yeah, and then next year we can work on open carry.
Exactly right.
Let me get this. I had not yet seen this, but it's entirely like me. Let me get this comment up. One Republican in federal Congress has introduced a universal background bill. I think that means a universal background check bill. That's possible. Is it going to go anywhere right now? Look, I'm just going to be real honest. Right now, nothing is going to move on guns in the legislature federally, period. A solid pro-freedom House, a divided Senate, and an anti-freedom president. Nothing is going to go through in the next 2 years. If anything looks like it could, I'll be absolutely sure to let you all know. But yeah, it's. I don't think anything's going to go through. Next story I want to talk about, Mike, and this did not make it to show notes because I just honestly went through Facebook messages 20 minutes before we went to air, and whoops, I forgot about this one. Nebraska has a suicide prevention bill. Yeah, that's the name of it. It's a red flag law that they're pushing through. The time for comment. Let me see if I can find it again. It is LB 482, and it is up in front of the unicameral right now. Comment time has finished. Comment time was done at noon today, but please do, if you're from Nebraska, please do still get in touch with your legislator because they only have senators there. There's only one house of the legislature there, and let them know you do not want this to go through. This is just plain flat a red flag law is all this is. There's no real suicide prevention there at all.
No, and again, this is right. The left is great at doing this. The repackaging, the re-terminology that they put on new things, on old things to try and make them new again. This is not suicide prevention, and I am a suicide prevention counselor. We've had this talk before, Paul. Mm-hmm. This is another method for liberals to take your firearms and go to any state out there and take a look at your stats for red flag laws, any state that has a red flag law, and go to the population centers that are controlled by Democrat officials and Democrat law enforcement officials, and take a look at the percentages of red flag laws used in those population centers as opposed to in the Republican-controlled conservative centers, and you'll see it's not a suicide prevention law. Because if you go by that, Paul, 90% of the people that own guns in a major city are going to commit suicide, whereas it's only 5% or 0% in the rural Republican-controlled areas. This is just a tool with a different name on it, red flag laws, to take away your firearms. Nothing to do with preventing anybody from hurting themselves or anyone else.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I cannot remember the name of the city. We covered this earlier this week. But there's a city in California, if I'm remembering right, I want to say it's escaping me. It's a county that is increasing their red flag police officers on the county sheriff's office and prosecutors assigned to doing those by 5 times. And this is, I want to. No, it's not Santa Ana. It's the county that's got Apple in it. Cupertino's in that county, and that.
Gotcha. Well, listen, I'll give you a stat here in Florida. It's the population centers: Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, right? Then you've got Tampa and a little bit of Jacksonville are the population centers, the major population centers. That still accounts for less than half, or about half the population of Florida. But those 5 counties right there, Paul, make up 95% of the red flag seizures in Florida. That's not an anomaly. That's not a weird coincidence. That's Democrat gun seizure policy. That's what that is.
That's 100% correct. And if nothing else, they're not going to do what they're not going to save anybody if they're a threat to others, because you're only taking firearms away. And honestly, you're not taking pills out of the house. You're not hospitalizing anybody. You're not doing anything to prevent them from doing harm to themselves. This is just a confiscation scheme is all it is.
Yep. If it was about suicide, we would take the person to help rather than take the gun from the person, because we're leaving the person home with still things like alcohol, pills, knives, cars, swimming pools, everything else.
Yep. All right, I want to get the next story in here. This one got my blood boiling a little bit because I think it's going to pass, and I don't think there's a lot we're going to be able to do about it until after it passes and the lawsuits start. This is off the LA Times, adding to the growing list of gun control measures California Democrats have unveiled in recent weeks, a new bill being announced Thursday would ban firearms dealers from holding game-style promotional events such as giveaways, lotteries, and raffles, and add new misdemeanor convictions that prohibit people from owning guns for 10 years. Senate Bill 368 would also require firearms dealers to store guns turned in voluntarily by owners at risk of suicide and set up gun buyback programs. Just a little bit more onto the story. Buyback programs are traditionally offered by local law enforcement agencies and are often marketed as a chance for firearms owners to earn a little cash by anonymously and voluntarily turning in their weapons, no questions asked. They want every gun store in California to now be a fencing operation.
And commit felonies, by the way, because they're not allowed to take in firearms without identifying the individual the firearm comes from. But I don't understand how this goes on in California. Didn't Governor Mussolini there just 2 weeks ago after the shooting say that he supports the Second Amendment and the individual's right to own firearms? How can this be true?
You know, you got me. And you know, if this gets to his desk, he's gonna sign it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and they, in California, the Democrats they have the supermajority in their parties there in their houses, and they continue to go along and propose and pass unconstitutional laws. Unfortunately, like you said, it takes organizations like Second Amendment Foundation and volunteers' dollars to get in there and to fight these things. It's unfortunate that's the way it has to go. I honestly think, Paul, within the next couple of years, during the next presidency, we're going to see remedies to keep politicians from knowingly creating and passing unconstitutional laws without penalty. I think we will see that under whoever the next super Republican is that's up there in the White House. It's going to come from either one of them.
All right, let me get this comment up. 500 Magnum says, they didn't buy my gun. They damn sure ain't going to buy them back, or they're not going to take them. Absolutely. Yeah, in order to buy back, you have to have sold it, and the government does not sell guns. Well, there is the civilian marksmanship program.
Yeah, exactly right. I've got some guns that just, if I ever get around to it, Paul, I may sell them because I'm looking to upgrade or go to a different style gun. And if they're willing to pay me fair market value for it, I'll entertain their offer.
Sure.
Oh, wait, no, I can't. That violates rule number 1 of gun safety. Never give your gun to the government.
Well, and never give your gun to a felon. And there's a lot of them in government.
Yeah, that's very true.
I want to go to a positive story here. There's a bill in Kansas. I got this off kansasreflector.com. They're advocates for implementing a statewide gun safety program in Kansas public schools, urged the Senate to get behind a bill requiring the Kansas State Board of Education to establish curriculum guidelines for instruction of students from kindergarten through high school. A comparable bill approved by the 2021 legislature and vetoed by Governor Laura Kelly also drew upon the Eddie Eagle initiative offered through the NRA for children from kindergarten to 8th grade. Students in 8th through the 12th grades would be, and I love this, 8th through 12th grades would be eligible for the firearm training program coordinated by the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. The Senate and Federal Senate Affairs Committee took up Senate Bill 116, which offered a blueprint for exposing Kansas students to as many as 13 years of firearm training in public schools. Kansas, you're doing it right.
Get her done, Kansas. Get her done.
That is so refreshing. Yeah. We were just talking about California, where you can't even raffle for firearms. You can't try and draw business the way, I don't know, Larry's Bingo Parlor does. You can't do that. You have to keep you can't advertise that you're open for business. You can't, try and scare business up.
Gun in the window, all of that. Yeah. Listen, yeah. California. Just going back to that, California would have you believe that the lottery or the raffle ticket meant that any felon could buy a raffle ticket and then take the gun home with them. They seem to forget that all of the other rules and laws still apply. That it's not going to happen. It is great to see Kansas doing this. This would be wonderful. I know there's still some states out there that have firearm training or firearm familiarization for safety in the high schools, and we know individuals that are doing it. With like Kids Safe Foundation with Derek there that are doing it and pushing it back in to get it happening. But to have it administered or at least ordered by the state government to have the firearms training first off, Paul, right? It's going to cut down on accidents with firearm, right? Immediately, because that's when accidents occur, is when you don't have the knowledge to handle one, and that could just simply be finding it laying in the bushes on the street from a felon that threw it out the window. Something as innocent as that could prevent that from happening. And if it only saves one child, Paul, shouldn't we be doing it? Shouldn't we be saving the children? Isn't that what we're preached about all the time, when it's preached to us all the time? And all we're talking about is making sure these kids are safe. We're not setting them out to be snipers, marksmen, or anything like that. It's firearm safety training to make sure they never become a statistic, because 0 accidents is the only acceptable number.
And it's not like Eddie Eagle is teaching anything outrageously. We're not giving kindergartner through 8th grade, we're not giving them target practice. Eddie Eagle, quite succinctly, and both you and I know this, stop, don't touch, run away, find a responsible adult and tell them. That's Eddie Eagle. And it's even if you just keep those principles and rename it, I'm sure the NRA is going to be just fine with that, because the NRA is really concerned about child safety.
Yeah, the NRA is, unlike other organizations that say they're every place for gun safety, right? But not schools. We wouldn't want to have safety in schools.
Yeah. Let me get a couple of comments in here real fast. C&T Designs and Arms says, I would like to see the government give grants that people could use to get firearms training. I advocated for that for a long time. Yeah. There's zero chance even now of it going through. Even in my beloved home state of South Dakota, I don't see this becoming a state law, but the more people that get firearms training, the less you need police, because the public can take care of and defend themselves. You can get by with smaller police departments. Therefore, the budget on either the state or local side goes down. I for a very long time, I was an advocate of a refundable tax, or how do I put this? A refundable tax credit for those who got firearms training. Okay. In other words, if you don't make enough to pay federal income tax, you'd still get a little bit of money back if you paid for firearms training. And
sure. No, I like it. Yeah.
I don't see it happening anytime in the near future, but I still think it's a fantastic idea.
Well, why not? I mean, listen, you don't get charged extra, or you get your rebate if you have your medical insurance, because that keeps more people healthy. So does firearms training. Why wouldn't that apply?
It certainly does. It absolutely does. I want one last story.
I don't know if the state would be giving out grants for firearms training. I would hope they would. I'd hope they create a program like that. It sounds like they're just trying to get it started and fund it. What I'd love to see is the feds come up with a grant program for that. And the current administration's not. But let me tell you what, I've met some grant writers in my day in government that they could turn a children's firearms marksmanship program into a school sports safety grant and get it. So it's all in how you write it.
Yeah. One last story I want to get to today, and we seem to be flip-flopping on good and bad stories. This one's not so great. This is off Albuquerque Journal, or abqjournal.com. A proposal to ban AR-15 style rifles in New Mexico began moving through the roundhouse on Tuesday as Democratic legislators pursue aggressive new gun control measures intended to address mass shootings and other crime. On a series of party line votes, members of a House committee advanced legislation to establish a 2-week waiting period for firearm purchases, useless. Prohibit the sale and possession of certain semi-automatic rifles and handguns, and the ban would go into effect March 2024, with some exceptions for people who already have the prohibited firearms. I will just about guarantee you what's going to be if you have a prohibited firearm, they're going to make you register it. They'll wait a couple years, then you'll have to give it up.
This is ridiculous. This is 2-week wait on an AR-15. But guess what, Paul? That 12-gauge shotgun on the wall, you could take that one home today. And never mind the fact that it could shoot 5 rounds of 9 rounds apiece of 33 caliber ammo in it. I could put 45 rounds into you or out of that shotgun before ever pulling that full magazine on an AR. Never mind that I could use 50 caliber rifled slugs in that and put them downrange as well. It's the AR-15, Paul. It's the individual rifle, evidently, in Albuquerque that does the killing. It's an evil black rifle that does all of the killings in Albuquerque. Nowhere else. Let's have them put in the bill that, okay, you know what? We'll sign up for it. And I would do this, Paul. I would do this right now. I would do this in Florida, and I would support this. I'd support this if I was the emperor of this country. I'm going to give you a 1-year ban or 1 year of 2-week wait on AR-15s, okay? And if we get 0 shootings completely within the next year, I'll support it forever. But you know what's going to happen? That's not going to happen because it's not the rifle that shoots people, okay?
You're right.
It's individuals. That's ridiculous to think that banning one type of firearm is going to do it. Proof is in the pudding. Look at the 94 assault weapon ban. It did nothing to stop or change firearm statistics.
You're absolutely right. And this 2-week waiting period, this is, let me get a comment in here real quick, and then I'm going to give you my take on a waiting period. If it can wait 2 weeks, you don't need the darn thing, says 500 Magnum. Average time to crime. There was just a survey released in the last few weeks. Not a survey, but statistics released the last few weeks of average time to crime for weapons, and it's over 2 years nationwide. Is over 2 years is the average. So a 2-week waiting period is going to do absolutely butkus to reduce any crime, and you'll never get a 2-year waiting period through. I wouldn't tolerate it. I don't know about you, Mike.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, just more dumb ideas. Let's blame the gun. Let's stop the gun. You got to stop the gun from being evil. It's the gun that makes people evil. Small brains. It's what they are. Small brains, or we know it, intentionally lying to you. And those people, those Democrats, those politicians, intentionally lie to people, get them scared, make them believe that it's the gun that's evil. So we must ban the gun. It's what we need to do is ban lying politicians.
Amen. Amen. We are way out. We're over already. So on the way out the door, man, tell everybody about the rundown and tell everybody about that logo over your shoulder there, Arms Room Radio.
Yeah, there we go. Rundown is a daily internet feed just like this. You can catch it all the places, OpsLens and the rundown.us. It's a program with myself and Mr. Craig DeLuz where we do commentary on conservative issues. And then the Arms Room Radio started all over 8 years ago. Arms Room Radio live on Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. And you can catch it now every place that you catch podcasts on 50 stations around the country. And I couldn't even name them all. I'm a bad host.
All righty, man. Well, on my end, I want to say please do come join us tomorrow for another edition of The Bullet, 5 p.m. Central Time. Tomorrow's Friday, so it's Legal Friday with Alex Uli. And then Mike will be back Saturday this week for the weekend edition of The Bullet. And let me see who's going to be with Mike on Saturday. Pull my calendar up. And, Alex Uli will be back Saturday too.
Alex Uli!
And I don't have the third seat filled yet, but I will have a third person to come in and join Mike and Alex and I, and we'll talk about the week in review. But that does do it for today, folks. We're seriously over time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting, and we'll see you next time.